Hello everybody. So, in this video we are going to discuss primitive data types in Java. So, basically in case of Java we have total of 8 primitive data types, right, and these primitive types are having certain restrictions, certain range, certain values. So, we will talk about those in this video in detail. So, if you talk about the primitive data types, so I have categorized them in the different categories. So, firstly byte, then short, then int and then long. So, these are the 4 primitive types for integer type. So, this comes in the category of integer type, means whole number integer values. And why 4 different types are provided? Because they have their range, they have their size itself and they have their range. If you want to store a smaller value, you can go with byte, short. If you have very large value, you can go for long or int type. So, depending on the requirement, you can take the variable of a given type. One more thing here I would like to discuss, there is a statement generally written that Java is a strongly typed language. So, when I say Java is a strongly typed language, it means whenever you create any variable or data member in Java, it must be having a predefined type. You cannot create a variable or data member without specifying its type. So, integer types byte, short, int and long, 4 choices are given to you. You can choose according to your requirement. Similarly, there are 2 data types, float and double. They are representing the floating point values. So, again float is having low precision and double is having high precision. So, one important point, in case of Java, all the floating point values are double in nature. Every function, predefined function which is returning some floating point value, that will be returning a double type. Float is not recommended. So, by default it is returning double as a value. Even if you write any floating point number, let us say I am writing 1.5. So, this 1.5 is by default double, it is not float. If you have to represent a float value, you can represent a floating point literal which will be appended by f. So, I can write here 1.5 f or 1.5 capital F. Now, this value and this value is float, but if I say 1.5, so 1.5 is double, right. Then 2 more data types, char type. Char is again in case of Java we have large range of character sets, that is why the char data type is having size as 2 byte. So, here I am writing the size also 2 bytes, it is constant. This is another important point. In case of Java, Java is architecture neutral, and because of this Java allocates the memory, the allocation of memory is done by JVM, not by the OS. That is why for every data type, for everything, the memory allocation is constant, unlike C++ or other languages where the size of the char data type changes depending on the OS. If it is 32-bit OS, so you are having 1 byte char size. If you are having 64 bit OS, then you are having 2 bytes. So, depending on the operating system, your character size is varying in other languages, but here it is architecture neutral and memory allocation is done by JVM, that is why it is constant across every platform. So, char size is 2 byte, and boolean in case of Java, boolean is having only 2 values, true and false. So, here the value of boolean can be either true or false, and these 2 literals are reserved words. In the keywords we have discussed that these 2 are the reserved words. Apart from this, null is also a reserved word. They are not keyword, but they are reserved and they are always in the lower case. You cannot use it in the upper case. So, size of boolean is generally we consider it as 1 bit, but it is written as 1 byte. So, but as is, specifically it is not mentioned, but you can say it is 1 bit or 1 byte. So, character size is 2 bytes. Now, if you talk about the size of these integer types, so byte is having size as 1 byte, short is having the size as 2 byte, int is having the size as 4 byte, and log is having the size as 8 byte. Similarly, float is having the size as 4 byte and double is having the size as 8 bytes. So, this is the size of different data types in case of Java. Now, if you talk about the values, what values can be accommodated in a particular data type, right? So, for numeric type, the value range is important. So, it is very easy to find out the values of numeric type, range of values that a particular type. Let's say I said कि I have taken a variable short. मैंने एक short variable लिया, तो क्या मैं उसमें मोबाइल नंबर स्टोर कर सकता हूँ? So, how you will come to know? It is very simple. For every numeric type, the range of values that you can hold in a that type of data variable is minus 2 raised to the power number of bits minus 1 to 2 raised to the power, I will write here 2 raised to the power number of bits minus 1 and minus 1, right. It means if I ask you what is the value range that can be stored in a byte type of variable, so the size of the byte is 1 byte. 1 byte means 8 bits. So, what value can be there in the byte type of variable? Minus 2 raised to the power 8 minus 1. Number of bits is 8 and minus 1, it means 7. So, it means byte can hold the value from minus 2 raised to the power 7 up to positive of 2 raised to the power 7 minus 1, right, because it is positive range is 2 raised to the power bits minus 1 minus 1. Why minus 1? Because 0 is also included, so it makes it minus 1. So, it means it is minus 128 to 127. Fine. Similarly, if I have to find out the range of the short, so I can write here the size of the short is 2 byte, it means minus 2 raised to the power 16 minus 1 means 15 up to 2 raised to the power 15 minus 1. So, this is going to be the range of short data type. Similarly, if anybody asks you what is the range of long, so what will the range of long? Minus 2 raised to the power number of bits is 64, it means 2 raised to the power 63 up to 2 raised to the power 63 minus 1. So, this is how you can calculate the range of any particular integer type of variable, right. Why this range is important? Because if you will try to assign some value which is beyond the range, in that case it will give you compilation error, right. So, it will give you the compilation error, although you can typecast it to hold the value, but that value will be converted into this range and then it will be assigned. We will discuss it in the separate video in the typecasting, that is narrowing and widening. Similarly, for floating point, precision is low for float, precision is high for double, size is 4 byte and 8 byte, and by default any floating point literal is double until unless f is appended at the end. Char type, char type is 2 bytes, means 16 bits, and char is compatible with integer literal. This is the important point about the char. In case of Java, char is compatible with integer literal. It means char variable can be assigned some character or it can be assigned some integer value, but that integer value must be in this range. What is the range of char type? 0 to 2 raised to the power number of bits, right? I am writing here. So 0 to 2 raised to the power number of bits. It means its range is 0 to 65536. I think it is -1. So something like this. Means if I write char C is equal to capital A, that is okay because we are assigning it like this. I can write here. I can write like this: char, let's say variable, let's say gender is equal to capital A. So what is character? How will represent a character type of literal? A single alphanumeric character written inside the single quote is char. It is a valid char literal. Can I write here something like this? A2. This is wrong. This is invalid char literal. Char literal says that inside the single quotes you can have one alphanumeric character. This is a valid char with a space here. But can I have something like this? 1, 2, no, this is wrong, right? So I can write here char gender, let's say I am writing here M. So this is valid, perfect. But can I write here something like this? Char roll is equal to 65. This is also allowed. As I said, you can assign any value in this range to the char type of variable value, literal, right? So it is allowed. It can be directly done. So this is okay. Fine. Then for boolean, I have already told you here we don't have the boolean having value 0 or 1. Either it will be true and false. By default, the value of boolean is false. By default, the value of char is null. By default, the value of integer type is 0. And by default, the value of floating point variables is 0.0. So that is the introduction of primitive data types, and we will be talking about in the next video about narrowing and widening. Thank you.